Hello everybody, Flash Notion here, and it's been a while. Again, I don't plan these breaks. Oh my god, I feel awful. But I'm back, and much like the previous couple of times that I've pulled this shit, I'm back with a Marvel reaction. Yeah. New Marvel movie came out. It's finally available on Disney+. I have not seen it in theaters. What was the last movie I went and seen in theaters? Oh, right, it was Sonic 2. Good movie. But that's not what we're here to watch today. We're here to watch Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And, yeah. So, I've not necessarily heard great things about this movie. Of course, I didn't really hear great things about Eternals either, and I fucking loved Eternals, so, I reserve judgment. Especially because I can't tell yet if the not-so-great things that people are saying about this movie are because of genuine problems in the movie, like with the script and whatnot, or if it's a case of audience expectations getting a bit out of hand. I don't have a specific example for that I can give right now, just because it's actually a little bit late for me, and my brain's a little frazzled. So, I don't have any specific examples, but I know that it is possible for fans to go into something expecting more than what they end up receiving, and it's not that what they ended up receiving was bad, it's just that their expectations were set so high for whatever reason, whether it was the trailers or the studio overhyping it, or just their own stupidity, to put it frankly. So I haven't heard enough to decide, or to know why people dislike it. I have heard, well, I know I've seen that the Marvel Illuminati, including the likes of Professor Charles Xavier, as portrayed by Patrick Stewart, and Reed Richards, played by, I think it's the guy that fans actually wanted to play him, so, I mean, they got that at least. I've heard the characters in here. I've heard the character does some dumb things, which, quite frankly, Reed Richards does some dumb things in the comics too. It's hard writing smart people if you yourself are not that smart. Just saying. In terms of also Black Bolt is on the team. And he's played by the same guy from Inhumans, which I'm happy about that. That guy was, the best part of the Inhumans series, which, damned by it might be damning by faint praise, but, he was legit good. I wanted to see him come back. Illuminati in this movie, probably not gonna last long. But hey, it's a multiverse. We could always see them again. But I've also heard I also know that Scarlet Witch is the true villain of the story, so I guess that's not really that big of a twist. That was given away in reviews of the movie, that didn't get too spoilery. So, yeah. I've also heard that there is a second, there is an actual twist to the movie, towards the end. And that it's kind of like a not a happy ending necessarily, or like the twist it makes it very bittersweet, something along those lines. So, I'm a little apprehensive there. I like my happy endings. I'm a bit sappy that way when it comes to media. So, then again, we did also have that one episode of the Marvel What If series that was about Doctor Strange. And not only did that one have a very unhappy ending, it was just one of the best episodes of that in general. So, yeah, I don't know. Come to think of it, the What If series might be why people have high expectations for this, because the What If series ended up being a very multiverse-spanning adventure that fully took advantage of the multiverse concept. So if this movie does not surpass that, people might be upset about it. Either way, it's about time to get started, so I'm just going to switch this over here. Okay, that didn't really have a good transition. It was very fast, but whatever. So yeah, let's get into watching this. Been a while. Gotta loosen up, Oh, water feels a little low. I might end up thirsty by the end of this. That won't be good for my vocal cords. So, especially since they are a little bit understretched, because I haven't done this in a while. And I'm starting off with a 2-hour frickin' movie. Alright, let's see what horror director Sam Raimi has in store for us. Alright, starting in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay, so, been a little bit. I've done some thinking. I've avoided looking at anything that I think might color my perception of this. I want this to be my own, fully my own thoughts here. Well, first of all, I did look up the character at the end there, Clea. I don't know how you want to pronounce it. She's pretty cool, actually. Her appearance, unless they've changed some things from the comics, which they might, but it implies a few things about future projects involving Doctor Strange. Yeah, I'm quite happy to see her involvement, and I'm glad that Charlize Theron is involved. I mean, she's pretty great. Yeah, so that's cool. So yeah, I've got some notes. I don't remember if I had these for... did I make notes for Spider-Man? I feel like I did. Either way, so... gonna do 3 sections of this. First section is gonna be some negatives. The middle section is gonna be me it's not quite negative, but it's I don't know how to describe it. You'll see when I get to it. And then lastly, of course, we're just gonna go through some of the cool stuff in the movie that I thought was, the parts that really stood out to me as being worth watching for. Right. So, the first thing, and the absolute biggest negative that I feel about this movie, is that you need to have watched WandaVision for this movie. The thing is that this would be a very bad idea, but if you were to sit someone down who has never seen a Marvel movie before, if you were to sit them down and have them watch Infinity War, they totally could. They don't need to have seen all those other movies to truly understand Infinity War and get what's going on there. Part of that comes from, it being Thanos' story more than anyone else's, but also the movie just does not rely on continuity. It takes the elements that are left over from the previous films. It acknowledges when those have affected how the movie is going, like Bruce, when he asks why isn't Tony calling Steve, they address the entirety of Civil War by simply saying, oh yeah, the Avengers broke up. There's no extra context needed. They just did. They're not getting along right now, and that's a problem. And that's all that you need to know. And it's the same way for literally every single other movie that took place before Infinity War. So that's how most Marvel movies have been. There are very few instances that I can think of where you absolutely 100% need to have watched another movie before watching another movie in order to understand the new movie, I don't know if there are any from the first three phases. I guess you can say you need to have watched Endgame and Infinity War before Far From Home, but that's kind of a borderline case. Usually, in the past, the Marvel movies have done a great job at only relying on the other movies as, they minimize the amount of necessary watching. However, Phase 4 is starting to have a problem wherein you absolutely need to have watched certain previous installments in order to understand the new ones. And that's a problem. At the very least, in order to have watched this movie... let's back up for a second. I first noticed this with Spider-Man No Way Home. Because of the way it immediately starts off after Far From Home, you need to have watched Far From Home in order to truly understand what the fuck is going on at the beginning of Spider-Man No Way Home. You can't just jump into it. And that's a problem. And similarly with this movie, because of the fact that Wanda is the main villain, in order to truly understand her motives, everything that's going on with her, you need to have watched WandaVision. In order to have watched WandaVision, you need to have watched Infinity War at the very least. Presumably Endgame as well. Possibly also Captain Marvel. There's... The continuity of Phase 4 is honestly insane. And... frankly, I don't like it. So, it's not just that I don't like it. It makes it more difficult for people to just watch this movie. I can't imagine somebody who has never seen WandaVision picking up this movie and trying to watch it. How the fuck are they going to understand what's going on with Wanda's kids? Like, they don't know who those kids are. They don't know why it's significant that Wanda has lost them or how she lost them. They never talk about that in this movie. And all the little nods to WandaVision, hell, even its music appearing in the soundtrack. Like, you need to have watched the show in order to watch this movie, and that is a big problem. And it also, like, in spite of that level of continuity, there's also a little bit of, like, not the way that they portray Wanda in this movie versus the way Wanda was portrayed at the end of WandaVision. There really is a disconnect there, and it's very weird because you can see like how she could have ended up here in this position, but it didn't feel like that's the direction that she was going at the end of WandaVision. And so it creates it feels wrong. It feels like her character basically was driving off into the sunset and then hit the brakes, turned around, and ran, just full speed ahead, crash into this movie as the bad guy. The metaphor kind of dissolved there a little bit, but you get what I mean. Or at least you should. So yes, that is the absolute biggest problem for this movie. And I have a feeling when I do go and watch a video about this movie that I have queued up in my YouTube playlist for later, that's going to be one of the things that they talk about. Regardless, there are only a couple of other relatively minor complaints that I have about this movie. More specifically, it kind of feels like they just dropped a lot of things once the plot started happening. Like, they have our universe, the main universe's Christine show up with her fiancé and all the associated characters from the first Doctor Strange movie, and then those guys are just gone. We don't even follow up with them at the very end. And we also never followed up on, like, the Mordo, whatever fucking his name is, his post-credit scene. We, like, mention, kind of, that he was doing some shady shit, but, like, we haven't actually done anything with that, and that's a little bit aggravating. I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the longest time that Marvel has let a smaller plot thread like that go unfollowed up on. And yeah, I don't know if it's just tiredness or whatnot, but my brain's not providing any answers, so this one might be a record. And aside from that, only other complaint I have, I mean, it's really just a personal thing. This movie is called Multiverse of Madness. It would have been nice to see a few more, like, just have a chase scene. Just have a chase scene where after Chavez gets control of her powers, she's just punching holes through all sorts of universes trying to get away from Wanda, and we go through so many different ones, so many different physics, and so many different, like, styles. That would have been very cool to see. Just, like, even that much would have been cool, but, like, it also would have been cool to, like, actually explore a few more of them. I understand, time constraints. I mean, all things considered, I'm glad this movie wasn't an extra half hour on top of the 2 hours that it was. I kind of had to... I was definitely doing a little dance in my seat there by the end. But, yeah, I mean, we only visit 2 other universes outside of the main MCU that are actually significant. We only spend significant time in two of them, rather. And we only see, for any extra amount of time, one other, and that's America Chavez's home universe. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So, in regards to that, yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't see more, but you can only partially judge a film by what it's not. You mainly have to judge a film by what it is. And, I'm, fresh off from it, I'm happy with this. I don't think it's as rewatchable as the first one. The first Doctor Strange, that is. Or any other of the movies that he's been in. There is a certain amount of, once... I don't know. Just coming off from it the first time, there's a certain sense of, this isn't going to hold up as well the second time for whatever reason. There's a lot of elements of, cheese and whatnot to it, which, you know what? I don't mind as much as some people will, I think. I had a lot of fun with this one. I appreciated the scary, creepy elements for what they were. I'm glad that I personally did not succumb to any jump scares. So, yay. But yeah. Okay, we're done with the complaints. We're done with the actual big negative stuff. For this middle section. All right, context for this middle section. I have tried to avoid as much spoiler stuff about this movie as possible. Obviously, stuff about the Illuminati was fucking everywhere. You couldn't get away from it. But the one video that got recommended to me on YouTube a few times that it was titled something along the lines of Marvel doesn't understand the multiverse, or something like that. I saw that video in my YouTube recommendations, and I thought to myself that, well, that doesn't seem right. How can they make a movie about the multiverse and not, to some extent, understand it? And what's there to misunderstand? I refused to watch that movie before because of spoilers, and going forward in the future, I refuse to watch it because I like not screaming at my phone over other people's stupidity. Which I have a feeling I'd be doing. But thinking about it, I'm just confused because there doesn't seem to be anything in this movie that indicates a misunderstanding of the multiverse as a concept. Nothing in this contradicts other multiverse parts of the MCU. I mean, the newest thing that they introduce is this concept of incursions, which isn't really all that new, because we kind of saw one of those in Spider-Man No Way Home, right? That's what all of those people coming into the MCU universe was going to be, right? That would have been an incursion. It would have torn apart the main MCU universe. And as far as traveling between universes causing incursions, we didn't see that in What If, because all of the traveling between universes done there was done by the Watcher or someone similar to him, Infinity Ultron. Alright? So, obviously their powers work slightly differently from both America Chavez's and, any other multiversal travelers, granted, there is some similarity in how the powers are presented, most notably during the scene where they're just falling through the different universes. But I feel like that's not enough to say that, well, they work the same way, And in the case of, Loki, Endgame, and the previous Doctor Strange movies, which have all mentioned the multiverse, but not actually properly dealt with it, really, it doesn't matter because they're actually talking about a different type of multiverse there. and I love talking about this part, so this will take a minute. But basically, there are actually 3 different types of multiverses as presented in fiction. And science in general, realistically, I guess. But, okay. To break them down, the types of multiverses. The one that most people are probably familiar with is the temporal multiverse. The temporal multiverse is what happens when you have branching timelines. So in that, there's usually a prime timeline, or in the case of Loki, a sacred timeline, from which all the other ones branch out. Now, the interesting thing about Loki is that Loki also kind of seems to imply the existence of a second type of multiverse, because the sacred timeline was a bit more loose. It wasn't just one timeline, it was like a general path of events that all timelines had to follow. And until they went significantly off track, the TVA was kind of leaving them alone. So, you can have universes where Loki is a girl, so long as Loki continues to do the things that Loki is supposed to do. Right? Like, does that make sense? And so, yeah, temporal is what most people are familiar with. What I just described there, where things are just slightly to the left, call that a dimensional multiverse. That one can cover a wide variety, but basically any parallel universes, ones that aren't branching, or any universes that do not share an origin, more or less. That's what it means by dimensional multiverse. Like, they exist alongside each other, but they don't come from the same place or time or whatever origin. Grand scale, big G God who maybe created the entire multiverse, that origin they can share, but smaller stuff, they're not coming from the same Big Bang, basically. Right? And the third type is actually rarely used. The third type I find the most interesting, though. I call it like a cosmic, cosmological, astronomical, something like that multiverse, because what that is it basically deals with anything that's like a subdimension, or like a pocket dimension, or something like that, where it literally exists physically adjacent to our universe, to one of the various universes, right? To get there, you don't need to do any fancy stuff with vibrations and breaking through reality. You only need to open up a wormhole or a black hole into a white hole, something like that. It's nothing too complicated. It's literally just, this is right next to ours. And those places can have very different physics still, but they're not in the same category as the other two, where things can get really crazy and different. I don't know what I'm saying. It might be hard to understand, but the basic way to understand it is that you look at the origin of this other universe. Does it come from a branching timeline? If so, then it's the temporal universe. Has it always existed alongside this universe? Then it's the dimensional one. If it's something that exists alongside this universe, but physically, not metaphysically, then it's the cosmic one. The mirror dimension is part of the cosmic multiverse. The dark dimension is part of the dimensional multiverse. And all of the variant universes that we see in Loki and in What If, those are part of the temporal multiverse. Now, there is one caveat to all this, and that has to deal with the the Sinister Strange, I've seen him, is what he was called, right? Uh, his speech, like the things that he said, about looking for Christine and not finding or looking for a universe where him and Christine where Christine and Doctor Strange are together and happy, and not finding it. Obviously that sounds a little suspicious, right? Like, how if the multiverse is infinite, how can he not find it? Well, I can actually think of 3 reasons why he wouldn't. Reason number 1 is simply because he gave up too soon. I mean, he's literally searching infinity. I give up searching for things in my apartment, right? I mean, compared to that, you got to imagine that searching all of infinity for this one specific circumstance, even if there are infinite universes where it happens, like, you're searching for one set of infinity among literal all of infinity, every infinity. It's basically impossible, isn't it? It should be. But also, there could be something with the fact that in fiction, okay, this one's a bit of a stretch, but in fiction, when exploring the multiverse, similar universes tend to be grouped together by the writers. Again, this one's a bit of a stretch because we don't know about the structure of the multiverse in the MCU, but this is just a trend that applies to fiction in general. The idea that the more similar 2 universes are, the easier it is to both look into those universes and view them, and also to travel to those universes. And so if that's the case, then it makes sense that during his search, the first universes that he would find, that Sinister Strange would find, are ones that are nigh identical to his. Universes where him and Christine did not work out. But the third thing that I can think of is that it is very possible that the Darkhold, being a corrupting artifact, may have actually affected his mindset. This is just a thing. Like, when you're searching for something, you can quite literally look at it and just not see it. And then you'll come back to that spot later and be like, I looked here. Why, I didn't see it. Why the fuck is it right there? It wasn't there before, was it? I mean, it must have been, but how come I didn't see it? It's all in your head. So in this case, Sinister Strange, he's using the Darkhold. It's corrupting his mind. He's looking for this one bright spot of hope in the entire multiverse. But, everything around him is just kind of shadowy and dark and gross, and, he's not in a good headspace. So, of course, he's going to mostly see the bad stuff in the multiverse. It's like he's going to be drawn to it. So, yeah, I don't think that, despite the way he phrases things, I don't think that Sinister Strange refutes the idea of Marvel's multiverse so far. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue that, you have to take what characters say with a grain of salt, because, they're not just saying... Yes, the writers put those words into the character's mouth, but, as I think any writer will tell you, any good writer, characters, if you're going to write for a character, that character takes precedence over yourself in terms of like if you're a good writer and you're trying to stay true to that character, you can't alter what they say from what they would say. Like, does that make sense? You have to think of the character as an actual person and write what that person would say, not just what you want them to say. You know, there have been cases, well-documented cases, of, you know, a scriptwriter putting something in that the actor for that character will then come back and say, like, well, I don't think they'd say that. We should change that. And then they usually do. Because usually the actor is right. So yeah. Okay, we're done with that section. Let's finish this up, right? Let's talk about the great stuff. Alright, and actually I'm going to real quick change the order here so that way we can get the one that's a little bit iffy out of the way first. So, first things first, something that stood out to me as kind of cool is just the inclusion of the fact that America Chavez had 2 moms. That's great to me. That's cool. Alright? I like that they did that. I don't like that those 2 moms were then immediately exiled from the story, and we did not even get a reunion between them and America at the end of the movie. Methinks that Disney mandated that the scene involving the moms be something they could easily edit out or edit around, and then at the very end there, the only other reference to her moms in the entire movie is something that Strange said, and that can easily be redone for foreign releases, so that way there's no gay in the movie. Fucking Disney. You know what? Just take it. It's in there, you know, for us here in America. We can say that America has lesbian moms. You know, I'm surprised that's not a meme from what I've seen. Anyway, yeah. So, aside from that, the fucking Soul Cape. Oh my god, that might just be the coolest looking thing in the entire movie. Which is saying a lot. But really, I love that and the zombie Doctor Strange in general, because that is definitely a creative thing, both in universe and out. I don't think, like, where else are you gonna see a movie in which your superhero lead character possesses his own dead body from another dimension and then uses it to fight while also, like, creating his outfit out of souls? Like, what the fuck? I don't know how the writers of this movie and Sam Raimi came up with that, but holy fuck, we need more stuff like that, because that is some shit straight out of a comic book, and I fucking love it. So yeah, that ranks really high up in terms of, like, the best things about this movie. I also liked seeing Maria Rambeau as that universe's Captain Marvel. Just because of what it kind of implies about that timeline, so to speak. I'm not really sure what type of, you know, universe the Illuminati, like, I'm not sure where in the what their origin in the multiverse is. I mean, it's probably either temporal or dimensional, but, like, I'm not sure which. But either way, like, holy balls, is all the stuff that is implied in that universe really cool. Um, but yeah, Maria as Captain Marvel is one of the ones that stood out to me, just because basically it implies that in the events of not the Captain Marvel movie, but like the past of the Captain Marvel movie, the backstory of it part. Um, Basically, the day that Marvel did the test flight for the Tesseract-powered spaceship, Maria was the pilot that went with her, not Carol. So that just implies a whole host of things. And therefore, I kind of wish we could see that particular story. Like if for What If Season 2 they were looking for things that they could explore, do that one. Do a story that says, what if Maria Rambeau was Captain Marvel? You know? That sounds like a great story. So yeah, I also loved seeing the admittedly few times that Wanda got really creative with her powers. That hex that she was showing off to Doctor Strange with, the mirror stuff there, and you know the killing of Black Bolt, you know, what mouth, like it just suddenly turned into that fucking one horror scene from The Matrix. That was cool. Alright, I loved seeing all of those. The rest of the time, when she's just like flying around and throwing red balls of energy, like, fuck that. That's boring. That part's boring. Like, I want to see her, you know, reshape the landscape. I want to see her just like sending people to another planet. That sort of stuff, you know? Just really showing off. But I understand why they kind of limited it a little bit. So, yeah. I mean, that's another reason why they probably should have put in a chase sequence of her, or, you know, going after America Chavez, going through the different universes. We also could have then had an absolutely amazing spectacle of Wanda just reshaping reality everywhere she goes. But I'll take what we've got. You know, and similarly, I liked, you know, this isn't the first time that we've seen Doctor Strange use other powers. Like, the Infinity War was probably the best example of that. Him, like, you know, the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, or whatever it was that he actually used, that's just what they looked like. The part where he turns a black hole into butterflies. Like, he's done some crazy stuff, but in this movie in particular, he was doing a lot of stuff that was different from his typical, like, orange sparkly magic. Summoning, like, phantom hands of a monster, or, like, that one head of a monster, you know, tearing the bus apart like he's in the mirror dimension, even though he's not. Similarly, trapping Wanda in the mirror dimension with an illusion. Like, there's just a lot of small moments. And of course, the fucking music battle. I almost forgot about it. I really did. But, like, I love a good musical battle, and I especially loved the classical music that Danny Elfman wove into it. It sounded incredible. It looked quite cool as well. You know, it's not the most visually impressive battle in the entire movie, but it certainly did work. And yeah, I'm a sucker for a good music battle too. Like, there are a few things that I'm a sucker for in terms of action sequences. Train sequences are one of them, and music battles are another one. And the MCU has been kicking it lately by having Doctor Strange do both. So, yeah. other than that, I mean, like, the visuals in general were quite impressive all throughout, I thought. There's a few spots where CGI is spotty. Things look a little bit shaky in terms of realism. But I'm not going to fault them for that. They're obviously, Disney's putting some extra pressure on various, like visual effects departments because they're just pumping out content, and that's kind of a problem, again. Not to mention all those people are probably being underpaid. But for what I'm trying to say is that for the time they have, for the pressure that these people are under, for as little as they are probably being paid, they're doing about as good a job as you could expect. And sometimes that means things are a little shaky, but other times they look fucking incredible. I think the only time in the entire movie where I actually pointed out anything like kind of shaky in the visual sense was the zombie strange makeup, and even that looked really good. It was kind of obvious that it was makeup with some CGI augmenting it. Just because the way it like hung off from his face, it looked like it was layered like makeup. It wasn't. It didn't have the, like, how can I put that? Like, if it was truly CGI, the proportions on his face would have been, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, it really was most notable around the eyes. Because his eyes looked really sunken in, as opposed to, like, if it was CGI, they probably would have been bulging outward. So yeah, it was noticeable. But that's not to say it was bad. It was just noticeable. So yeah, I love the visuals of this movie. And, you can say what you will about the writing and, like, some, like, mishandling of characters or whatever. Like, you can complain all day about it. You can nitpick this to death. You can nitpick any movie to death. I stopped nitpicking movies to death a long time ago. It's just not fun. I prefer to be positive. So, yeah, let's be positive. This movie looked fantastic. It had some great action sequences. It had some very interesting ideas. I hope Wanda is not dead. I hope her children get to come back. Then again, we did just get introduced to a version of Wanda and her kids from another universe who are at least aware of what was going on now. So maybe those versions will come back specifically. Who knows? Either way, Multiverse is now basically open, and, Disney, Marvel can do whatever the fuck they want. So, looking forward to that. As far as Thor: Love and Thunder goes, is that the next one, actually? I mean, that's the next movie, I'm pretty sure. Hold on a second. Let's, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Phase 4. Okay. Yeah, so Miss Marvel is going to be finishing up in the next couple weeks. Thor: Love and Thunder comes out this week. Holy shit. In like a week. Which is... goddamn. I'm going to be waiting so... June, July... April, May, June... There was only like a month before before Doctor Strange came out on Disney Plus. What the actual hell? God damn, that's crazy. That had a really limited theater run. But yeah, I guess Thor is definitely their big one. Huh. But they've only announced dates for up till She-Hulk. It's kind of crazy. I mean, we've got a bunch of stuff coming up. What If Season 2, Guardians Holiday Special, Black Panther, the Secret Invasion stuff. But yeah, okay, so as far as reactions, though, Thor Love and Thunder is probably one I don't know. I want to react to it. I do. We'll see. We'll see. But for right now, holy shit, 40 minutes of talking. That's long enough. Yep, I'm going to call it. That's the end of this video. I've talked for long enough. Yeah. So, hopefully I stick to this. I need to finish up Soul Eater and Starverses and then figure out what I'm doing from there. I don't fucking know. Regardless, yeah, I'm really hoping that this means I'm actually back. Either way, until next time, Flash Notion signing off. Bye bye.